Good evening and welcome to this fantastic edition of Plus Sports on Plus TV Africa. It's a Monday evening, and of course, it's the start of a new week. It has been a lot of sports across the weekend, from Saturday to Sunday, from tennis to football. Of course, in football, the transfer market is open, meaning that there's a lot going on in the transfer rumor mill. Stories about players who might be staying put, stories about players who might be leaving, and of course the ones who definitely have changed clubs, like the likes of Xavi Simons from PSV Eindhoven to Paris Saint-Germain. That and many more we'll be touching on later on the show, but it promises to be a bumper edition of the show right here. We're airing live from our studios in Victoria Island in Lagos. Welcome to Plus Sport. My name is Wale Agbede, and I'm going to be your host for the next 50 minutes or thereabout. Usually we like to start from the home front with regards to how we delve into all the nitty-gritty of what it is that we have on the menu to serve you guys today. But we even have it bigger this evening right here on Plus Sports. Over the course of the last 7 days or thereabout, there's been a blockbuster interview that did go down on Sky. It was between Gary Neville and England midfielder Dele Ali. Of course, we all know Dele Ali. I used to be at Spurs, played in Turkey recently. And of course, I mean, recently the stories about his career have been more about how topsy-turvy it has been. You know, at 20, he was on top of the world. You know, the next Frank Lampard. He was starting for England week in, week out, was one of the mainstays in Mauricio Pochettino's side at White Hart Lane. But unfortunately, you know, after a drop in form, a couple of injuries, it seems like he has struggled to hit those heights that he hits at the start of his career. You know, some information they've come to light, you know, just from the interview that he did with Gary Neville just last week, or, I mean, he did interview earlier, it was released last week. And, you know, the whole world has been, you know, shocked by some of the things that he's revealed, you know, with regards to, you know, some, you know, trauma that he says he has, you know, suffered whilst being, you know, younger, as a young boy, the time that he spent in Nigeria, supposedly as a punishment from his father at the time, whilst he was younger. For those who don't know, there was a time when he started his career, he used to wear Ali at the back of his jersey, as most players do, wearing their surnames. And then, you know, all of a sudden he changed to Dele. And the story at the time was that he didn't feel enough connection with the Ali name, and that he didn't think that it was deserving to be on his jersey, especially as he had become a worldwide superstar. In reacting to that interview with Gary Neville, there's been an exclusive story that was dropped by Ojora Babatunde, a Nigerian journalist based in France, on ojbsports.com. That has been making the rounds over the last couple of days. And joining us today to discuss all of the details and to react to that interview is a spokesperson for the Dele Ali family right here in Nigeria. We have Otumba Johnson Olowu and his son Storm Olowu, who are relatives of the former Tottenham Hotspur midfielder, joining us live on the show today. Otumba, good evening. Thanks for joining us on the show.
Good evening. And I'm not in Nigeria at the moment. I'm somewhere in Europe.
All right,
And this is my son, Storm Olowu.
Hi, nice to speak to you.
And I'm Otumba Kujore Olowu.
All right. Thank you very much for that correction, Otumba Olowu. And I'll start with you, Otumba, as we delve into all of this. I know that you've seen the interview, or at the very least, you've read excerpts from that conversation that Dele Ali had with Gary Neville last week. What was your first reaction when you came across that interview?
I'll let my son respond first, then I can just come into it, because he's the one that broke the story on his Instagram page and sent all these pictures to counter what Dele said on the Gary Neville show. And his page has been blocked for 2 days by Instagram. So
yeah, when we first saw the interview, we sat here as a family, we watched it, and to be frank, we were quite shocked at some of the claims and things that were said by Dele himself. ranging from the punishment trip to Nigeria, he said, selling drugs, his mum being an alcoholic. 80 to 90% of that interview to me was purely false and misleading. But obviously, the majority of people don't know his family, and they only know his acclaimed family, the Hickfords. So it's going to be very easy for people to believe what was said. So hence why we're here now countering that.
All right, so let's start from the beginning, right? Like you said, the whole family was shocked, having heard, some of the things he said. What actually happened? How was Dele's childhood? I know that
Okay.
he started growing up in the UK, then came to Nigeria.
Yeah.
What exactly happened during that time period?
So yeah, Dele was born in the UK in Milton Keynes, in the same town that I was born and raised in, and he was there for a few years before he decided. Well, his dad decided to move him to Nigeria to stay with him, as that's where his dad was working at the time. His dad thought that was the right decision because obviously any parent would want their son around them. And yeah, Dele was there. He went to one of the best private schools in Nigeria. It was paid for. It cost $30,000.
Abyssina,
What's the name, sorry?
Abyssina,
Abyssina
by Country Club in Ikeja.
in Ikeja. And the school cost fees are £30,000 a year. I did the research myself. And the photos are uploaded. You can see Dele around a host of interracial and foreign classmates. So it seems to me like for him to say he got sent to Africa as a punishment is a bit absurd, seeing as he was in a very good school. He would have had somebody take him to school. He would have had somebody make sure that his life around the time was very organized and very high class in Nigeria. And
Oh,
yeah, go on, sorry.
all right, Storm. So I've spoken to people who have opinions, different opinions with regards to the initial claims and of course the reaction from yourself and of course the family generally. And we've heard a lot of stories, a lot of tales from people who have lived abroad, who were born abroad, where their African parents threaten them with, when they misbehave or they have bad grades, and the parent says, "Oh, I'm going to send you back to Africa, so you could
Yeah.
get some discipline."
The-
So one of the feelings, one of the reactions I got was sending him back to Africa, regardless of how posh his life was here in Nigeria. Just the intent, right, to send him to Africa could have still been a punishment because,
Okay. We
So
understand
how do you
that.
react to that?
Well, you see, obviously, there's a stigma about foreign African kids getting sent back as a punishment. In this case, Dele wasn't sent anywhere. He was taken with his dad to go and live with his dad, where it was convenient for his dad to keep an eye and raise him. And this is before the ages of 7, before the ages of 8, where he's still a young kid. So what 7, 6 year old is getting punished by getting sent to Africa? It's quite evident that he was only there just to be supervised by his dad. So I don't see it as a punishment. I think that's very misleading for Dele to say. And yeah,
All right, so you said he was brought, to be with his dad, where his dad could
yeah,
look over him. Do you know why he was brought back to Nigeria if it wasn't for
yeah,
punishment?
because his dad works in Nigeria, Texas, and Canada, and not the UK. And it was convenient for his dad to have his son where he's working and where he lives. So that's why he brought Dele back with him.
So where was his mom at the time in all of this?
The mom was from Milton Keynes. That's where she lives. That's where she's a white lady. She has Dele has two older sisters, and she's a white lady from Milton Keynes. That's her environment. That's where she works, and that's where she knows.
All right, so you're saying categorically that she wasn't an alcoholic, and that was not why
No.
No.
he was brought back
Well,
to
my
Nigeria.
question, my counter to that alcoholism claims is Dele has two older siblings, from two older siblings, two older sisters. They've never been removed from their home by force by child protection services. There's nothing ever come out from that house about them being under an alcoholic parent or abused. So my question is to a household of 3 kids with now more, why is Dele the one that's noticed that she's an alcoholic, and why is no one else ever spoke about that? Why is the court and the community not got involved and withdrawn them, and social services withdrawn them from the house?
So
There's no evidence of her being alcoholic legally.
So, Storm, before I go to Otumba briefly, from your perspective, why do you think Dele would have, made these claims publicly, especially
My-
at the level of the kind of platform in which he's gone on to go do it?
Yeah, my dad can delve more into that, but as a basis, it's more to do with the fact that everything he's saying is being controlled by the Hickford family. He's not really saying everything he's saying is being broadcasted through them and it's being voiced by them, but just using Dele as the platform. I feel like it's a way to kind of revive his career that he has, and in a way look for some sympathy and an excuse, really.
So quickly, how did he go from he was in Nigeria with his dad, right? Living a good life, going to a good school, right? He got what he wanted when he wanted, I presume. How did he go from there to being in foster care? I believe he was in foster care, right?
My dad can explain that.
All right. Otumba,
Yeah, good evening.
good evening.
Yeah, so it depends on what you want to know and where you want to start, to be honest.
So the reason I'm going to the foster care part of it now is because clearly, like Storm just mentioned,
Excuse me, there was never anything to do with any foster care. Dele
okay,
has never been in foster care. There's no
okay,
document in the UK or from any council in the UK that can confirm to you or anybody in this world that Dele Ali has been in foster care or adopted. Go and do your research. We have a lot of investigative journalists. They can go check it out.
all right. So Otumba, what's with the other family that has been that their name have propped up a lot in this conversation? How did that come about?
I'll start by saying this. Kenny is a very, very close relative of mine. We went to secondary school together in Maryland, in Nigeria. He was my junior in school. We lived in Milton Keynes together in the UK. You know, so his twin, I speak to his twin every day. He still lives in Milton Keynes. Taiwo still lives in Milton Keynes. And they came to England, I think in the 90s, for education purpose. They were doing their masters and were living in Milton Keynes. Kenny met Dele's mom in the nightclub, and Dele was born. But Dele's mom had two older sisters before then that she was looking after. And when Kenny finished his masters, he had to go back to Nigeria for whatever reasons I don't know. Because he's not British, he came here to study, he came to England to study. So he decided to take Dele with him because maybe he knew that the mom doesn't have the facilities to give his son
That's quality of life.
the quality of life. And he gave Dele that in Nigeria. And he met his new wife, who is an American Nigerian lady in Nigeria, with Dele there. And him and the wife got married in Nigeria, and Dele was the best man. I'll send you the pictures of his father and his new wife. And they both left with the wife to live in America, in Houston, where he still lives today, up till now. Dele in Houston was not comfortable because he said he doesn't want to play basketball, he wants to play football. And the mom and the dad called the mom in England that this is what your son wants to do. I'm going to bring it back to England so he can start his football career. So his father brought him back to England maybe age 12, I think, and gave him back to his mom in Milton Keynes, and we're all there. We all see it. Because I happen to work in football. I'm a football agent. So I know the good sides and the dark sides of the game. And I know everything that was happening. And at that time, it was 12. There's no football, there's nothing. He went to school with Harry, the schoolmates and friends, same way as your friend, Chris Carter, the white guy. So this is normal for kids to mix together. So then it goes to their house and all that stuff. Maybe they're more opponents in their house, and for kids, they want to be in a comfortable environment. They want to play the games. Dele's mom is not financially buoyant. She lives in a council estate. She has two older kids. So the boy prefers and comfortable to stay with his friend, which is normal for the kid. It's normal for you. When your mom passed, Chris' mom used to come and pick you up.
Yeah, very normal.
And I've started warning you that don't let Dele happen to you. Is that what I've been telling you from a kid? Yes. You know? So this is normal where these kids grow up. Mixing with the other kids from white background is the normal thing. And we encourage that because we live in a very, very liberal society now. But we didn't know this was going to turn into grooming your child. We only believe that, you only get groomed for sex. We don't know you're going to get groomed to be taken advantage of financially as a kid. So when Dele was playing at MP Dons, Harry was playing in the same team. By the time he wasn't living with them. He was going back home every day. And when Dele was 15, on a particular day, they did not drop Dele at home. And the mom called Kehinde. Kehinde was in Houston and said to Kehinde, these people have not dropped my child. And Kehinde called Alan Pickford. Kehinde has their house number from Houston. And Alan said, oh no, the kids are just playing.
It's a normal thing.
It's a normal thing. And Kehinde was comfortable because these are people that he has their numbers. He calls the house, he goes to the house. The mother sits in the garden and they drink tea together when the kids are playing football. So you wouldn't suspect that the people that welcomed you in the house, welcomed your child, are they going to do like this? So he said to Dele's mom that, come, why are you getting worried? The boy is only with his friends. I've spoken to them until it became a normal thing every Wednesday. That he stays there every Wednesday because that is when they go training for football. And Dele's mom doesn't have a car. And they volunteered to be dropping him off at home, not to be keeping him in their house. So when Dele was turning to 16, MK Dons invited Dele's dad from America to come to Milton Keynes. And they said to him that your son is really doing well, and we think that you should sign a letter of consent, or what they call it, power of attorney to us, so we can look after him properly. And Kenny told them categorically that I'm not going to sign any documentation for you. Oh, because I want my son to be successful playing football. Well, the most important thing to me is education for my son. So football is fine, but I still want my son to go to school. I just don't want him to do football. That was the error that Kennedy apparently made, because they just want his son for football. They don't want no education. But Kennedy did not know the danger that was coming. He went back to America. Then he continued playing his football. So the coaches now start scheming and planning with the family that brings Dele to training. How they were going to snatch him away from parents. They've got an agent whose name is Rob Siegel. I'm quoting them so they can go and sue me if I'm lying. And Rob Siegel was the agent for Carl Robinson, who was the coach at MK Dons at that time. And they did the deal for Dele Ali without his parents, without nobody, with the Pickford standing as his family. And since that day, Dele has been avoiding everybody. We got Dele's dad came from America like 7 years ago, when they planted it in the news that Dele's mom is an alcoholic, so that they can blaspheme people and then do what they've been doing, turn the world against her from the beginning. The woman became a recluse. She can't come out of her house. She has to give up her job because everybody sees her as somebody that, evil woman that gave up her son. So the woman has been suffering for many years. Even Kenny, that is not married to her, is still the person that is helping her today from America, making sure that she's okay. We found out through investigative purposes where Dele lived. And myself and Kenny, 5 years ago, 2017,
6 years ago.
6 years ago, drove in London like a detective, and we located the property, which is a secured property. Dele knows, Dele can see this interview and see whether I'm lying. And we drove in there. They didn't open the security gate. We wait for a car to drive out of the place, then we drove in. We parked, and we saw the window, we stood there, and we saw Dele walking down from upstairs. And me and his father and Joshua, we walked to the door, and the first thing Dele did, because I didn't even think the dad was telling me the truth, that we just don't listen to it. The first thing Dele did was hug his dad. I was amazed. I told you when I came up, I was amazed. And his girlfriend was there, Ruby May. She can testify to what I'm saying. She's a witness. And introduced the girl to his dad. And he said to the girl to go upstairs. And me and his dad went downstairs to his room, to his house, went trophy room downstairs. And his dad was saying, Dele, why are you doing this? He couldn't look us in the face. I even said to him, I told you, everybody knows his dad will tell you. Harry Pickford was not in the house that day. Dele he gave his dad his new number, said that dad would go. I said to his dad, stay in this house today. Dele said, he's going to train, and his dad is not there, He said, no, don't worry, I'll see you tomorrow. You know that tomorrow, Gary Pickford has been told that Dele's dad has come. We have not seen Dele again. 2 years later again, they moved him. They keep moving him. Again, his father came from America and traced him to another address in North London. Those people rented the property that they were paying 30,000 in rent a month.
When this was happening, he was already playing for MK Dons, right?
This one is at
No,
Tottenham.
this was at Tottenham. They've already moved him from MK Dons.
He was already playing in the Premier League.
Yes,
Interesting.
he was MK Dons. He has already gone to the World Cup. I was in his house with his dad, his real dad, Kenny. Tell Dele Ali I said that and tell him to say I'm lying. And I'll show him all the video in his house, in his trophy room with his dad. And he couldn't look his dad in his face. He's been drugged up. The boy is suffering. The whole world needs to help Dele Ali. And that's the truth. He's being groomed just because of his love for football. He's suffering.
Afraid to speak the truth.
So they've groomed him. And he only wanted to play football and he didn't know it's going to make him lose his family. That's why he's not been playing well. He's psychologically messed up.
All right, so I mean, of course, when he moved to Spurs, he was having a good time. You know, I presume he was on a good contract.
When he moved to Spurs, when he was 18, his father, when this happened at MK Dons, that his father said he was not signing any document. So they went on to do whatever they did to sell him to Tottenham for 7 or 8 million at 18. So the day Dele told his dad that Tottenham want to buy him, Dele himself called his dad in Houston and said, this is happening. And his dad called me and said, my son called me and said, this is happening. I said, listen, you come down here because it's going to be his 18th birthday. That you come, when you come here, we'll see what's happening. When Kenny landed at Heathrow, the same day, the Ickford family organized their 18th birthday party for Dele in Turkey and went on a private jet. That is what happened.
So they were basically deliberately, separating him from his family.
Go and check all my story and check whether they did not fly. And when Dele Ali's father is ready to come out, which he will, because we want the authorities to tell Dele Ali and the club to go and seek independent, questioning. Or Gary Neville, we didn't bring any story out. He went to Gary Neville, not a voluntary interview, an interview sponsored by Sky Bet. So someone has been paid huge amount of money for this interview. Gary Neville got 5 million views. So Dele Ali is a mole. And now, we couldn't do anything for 7 years because they gagged us. His father spent over $200,000. He's got all the documents. They gagged us in the UK because they planted a false story in the newspapers, in the Sun newspapers, that Dele Ali's mom is an alcoholic so that they can sign Dele Ali when he was 18.
So Otumba, let's just circle back a little bit. So you said his mom became a recluse because obviously the stigmatization and all of the negative press that she had gotten.
If you grant me a minute, I
Go ahead.
can call Taiwo Ali, who is Kehinde Ali's twin, and is in Milton Keynes now, and he will be with Dele Ali's mother Dennis now.
That would be fantastic.
Let me try.
All right. Fantastic one. Looks like this is even going to be more bumper than we thought. But we're getting, real-time information of how Dele Ali's growth,
I'm calling him on video call.
Yeah, fantastic.
So I hope he picks up.
How everything has happened.
This is not a matter of football or money. This is a matter of welfare. This is. Hey, Taiwo, I'm speaking live to Wale Agbede to Nigerian TV. This is Dele Ali's blood uncle. This is the twin of Kenny Ali, Dele Ali's dad. So I'm going to pass it to Taiwo. You told me a few minutes ago that you are going to Dele's mom. Are you there?
Yeah, no, I'm just going to test that. So.
Okay, please, I want you to continue this interview with Mr. Agbede.
Good evening, Mr. Taiwo Ali. How are you doing today?
I'm good, thank you.
All right, fantastic. Great to know that you are with his mom. How's she doing, first of all? Is she well?
Yeah, she's fine. So I'm just going to, see her in a few minutes.
All right, fantastic. So Otumba was just telling us about, all the negative press that she got when a claim was made that, she's an alcoholic. A claim that Dele himself has gone on to confirmed in that interview with Gary Neville last week. What do you have to say about this? You are literally with her right now. Can you confirm to the world, to Nigerians and the whole world, that his mom is fine and not an alcoholic?
Of course, obviously the mom is fine. I can confirm that she's not an alcoholic. So I'm going to see her, like I said, in a few minutes. So yeah. Well, however, she's been disturbed by the news anyway. So I'm just going to see her and just meet up with her in a few minutes.
All right. Before this interview with Gary Neville, before I'll let you go in a minute, Mr. Taiwo. Before this interview, right? There's been all the negative press surrounding the suggestion of alcoholism. How has she taken it over the years, and what has she done to try to clear this up? Because I mean, she still has a long life to live ahead of her.
Well, obviously, she's a poor woman. She's just trying to live her life in her own simple way. When you are being confronted with powerful people, over here, things are different, to the way it's done in Africa. Even though, the Africans don't believe certain things are happening. So there are powers to be. You are contending with people with connections, people who have the media at their disposal.
And to shut you up, they put the Gagina down us through the courts for 7 years.
Yeah. So there isn't much that she can do anyway. So she's just trying to live her life in a simple way.
All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Taiwo, for giving us a little bit of your time this evening.
You're welcome.
All right. Fantastic.
Taiwo, I'll call you after the interview.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right. That was quite revealing. Otumba, so Mr. Taiwo describes Dele's mom as a poor woman, who's just trying to live her life as peacefully as possible.
A simple woman. Is there a crime for anyone to be poor? Is it because you are poor they're going to steal your child?
So
when does being poor become a crime for somebody to steal someone's child?
Are we to believe, Otumba, that all the wealth that Dele must have amassed from being a Premier League player has not rubbed off on his mom at all, even though she's literally in the United Kingdom with him?
Listen, all what I'm coming here to say has got nothing to do with finance.
Okay.
It's got to do about a young boy that his family, not just his dad, his cousins, half brothers, all the people he shared his life from a very young age. His father, I've invested in my son as well. His father brought him to Nigeria, showed him our culture, done the right thing that you should do for a child like this, sent him into nice, good schools. All the family embraced him, and this is what you get. It's saddening. This is not about money. This is sad.
All right. Quickly, as we round off this evening, I really do appreciate your time. What is the plan of the family now? Because I mean,
look, the family they don't have any plan. The only plan is Dele is the one, and the people behind him that went to do an interview on Gary Neville that said all these allegations. We didn't say nothing. His father decided that, listen, let this boy just continue his career. Let him just don't spoil my name. And we've left him alone. So, okay, go.
He's an adult.
And he's an adult. And the man has gone with his life. Everybody, we are going with our lives. Nobody is begging Dele for anything. We don't need nothing for it. Then you go, when your career is declining and they're giving you drugs, they've messed up your head. I'm a football agent. I know all the problems you've had. You've been tested positive for drugs at Tottenham, tested positive for drugs at Everton, tested positive for drugs at Besiktas, and all these bad people behind you are covering it up and destroying your life. And they're coming to use the family as scapegoat for all these problems. That is why we are out here. We are not out here for Dele or his money. We want Gary Neville to invite Dele and is supposedly very good family that helped him career on that same seat. Invite Kenny from Houston on that same seat. Invite Dele and his biological mom on the same seat. Let them all face the world and speak. That's how they can help Dele.
All right, Storm, you wanted to chip in something?
Yeah, I said, yeah, that's exactly what they should do. Everyone there should be there and speak together. Anyone that wants to lie should lie in front of the whole world.
All right, thank you very much. Otumba, it's been absolutely a pleasure to speak to you this evening to air your side of everything that has happened.
One more thing, Mr. Agbede.
All right.
Look, like I said, I'm an Otumba, I'm an elder and work in football. African parents must be careful about strangers because they don't want to play football or they want to do music. They just give people their son, because they want money. We can't continue to do this to our kids. It's unfair and a lot of pressure on them. It's bad. Please, all of us, we have to change our mentality.
All right.
Like the new president said, the most important thing for all Nigerians is our mentality. We all have to change our mentality for our country to change, our children to understand. This mentality of us that we think our family, our kids have to help us is crazy because that's what you see on the internet. Oh, because of his money, because of Dele is a very, very successful man, both in the US and in Nigeria. On the same island that you broadcasting, I have properties. They did that as properties there. I'm not in England now. I have property where I am. I have property where my kids live in England. So this is not about Dele money. This is about a child that has been groomed systematically by a white family. If a black family tries this in England, they will never see freedom in their life. Never.
All
Never.
right.
This is adoption, systematic adoption and grooming of a young boy for financial gain. Simple. It's not just sex that they take advantage of young people. Now they're taking advantage of us as, our profession, musicians, sports artists, athletes, even people with education, they're stealing our accountants, stealing our doctors, everything we have, they're taking from us. And we're just sitting down and we just all moaning on the internet. Come on, man. I don't have time for that rubbish.
All right.
And I know you don't.
Of course I don't. Thank you very much, Otumba Olowo and Storm Olowo, for joining us. Thank you very much.
All you can do for us is make sure the whole world ask for the true story of Dele. Let all the parents, left and right, come on the same Gary Neville show that he went to say this thing. What is the problem with that? That's the simplest thing. Gary Neville collected money for the show, so they want to just hear one side of the story and they don't want to hear the other side. Yeah, come on, it doesn't work like that.
All right, thank you very much. Of course, we are interested in both sides, and that's why we have brought Otumba and Storm right here on the show. It's been absolutely quite revealing, all the things that we've heard this evening from relatives of former Spurs, former Everton, and of course, last season was at Besiktas midfielder Dele, who of course has played for the Three Lions of England. Came from MK Dons, made that big move when he was 18, and now all the stories surrounding his life with regards to drugs, which he did admit to, although his timeline is quite different from the timeline that his family have set for, when he has supposedly been involved with drugs, and everything is just really, really murky. Of course, Dele, they talk about he made a claim about sexual assault of him when he was a minor, when he was about 6 years old. And it's just really, really, really messy. We do hope that this clears up as soon as possible, especially for the player and for the family, so that everybody moves on in peace. But of course, if the family says that they do want to clear this up publicly, as Dele as taking the family's name public, then personally, I think they do have a right to. And we'll see how it pans out. We'll follow up with this story. And of course, if need be, we'll get Storm and Otumba Olowo right back here on your screens. It's been a bumper edition of Plus Sports on Plus TV.